So in this video, we're going to explore the concepts of theoretical yield, actual yield, and percent yield conceptually first, and then the following video we're going to do an example calculation using these ideas. So again here, let's think about, we'll use our same reaction we were looking at in the last video, the production of ammonia, of nitrogen plus hydrogen producing ammonia, to get at this idea. So in a reaction, in a chemical reaction, it's very rare that reactions proceed 100% to completion, meaning that all of the reactants turn into products. There are side reactions that can happen, so different products can be produced than what you wanted to produce. There are sometimes reactants that just don't react, just with the way the reaction works. Those are probably the most common reasons that you would get less product than you were expecting. And so we can take account of this and get an idea of what percentage of the yield that we wanted did we actually get. And so to get at that idea, we're going to talk about the idea of theoretical yield. So everything we've actually calculated up to this point, or the way we've done the calculations, is the theoretical yield of a reaction. So what is theoretical yield? It is just how much of a product you get, or how much of a product you would get if the reaction goes to, if all of the reactants turn into products. Now I will put a caveat on here and say that you do still have to take into account limiting reactants here. So your theoretical yield is going to be based on, and I'll just add that here, based on limiting reactant. So what this means is that in our previous example, in fact, let me just go to that previous page here. Oh, not a new page. Not paste. Oh, back here. So in our example here, with our ammonia example here, this circled answer here, right, that we calculated from our limiting reactant of nitrogen, this would be the theoretical yield of our reaction given that our limiting reactant is nitrogen. You can express it in moles. It's often expressed in grams. So either one will be correct. You just need to make sure you specify which units. Usually in a question like this, you'll be asked to give this in a specific unit, whether that's moles or grams. So that would be the example of a theoretical yield. Now, what is an actual yield? The actual yield is what you measure from actually doing the reaction. So this isn't something that you can calculate. You actually have to do an experiment and see what the reaction gives you. So in general, there's no way to figure out what the actual yield is without it being told to you. You'll be told this is how much you actually got from doing this reaction in a problem or something like that. Now, what we're often interested in is what's the ratio of these, right? If your theoretical yield and your actual yield are equal to each other, that'd be great. That's what you want. But you may be only half of it. Your actual yield is half of what your theoretical yield is. And so the way we keep track of this is the idea of a percent yield. And this is just comparing the actual and theoretical yield. So the percent yield of a reaction is just equal to the actual yield divided by the theoretical yield, and then expressing it as a percent. So we multiply by 100% to put this in a percentage. Right, so in general, or always, your theoretical yield should always be bigger or equal to your actual yield. So this will always be a number 100% if they're equal or less. You can get very strange circumstances where it's slightly over 100%, but that's generally small errors in weighing and things like that if it's close to 100% yield. But in any regular calculation, you'll see these should give you numbers less than 100%, but more than 0 because you don't have negative yields. Anyway, now one thing to just be aware of is that your actual and theoretical yield need to have the same units for this to work out. So say you calculate your actual yield is given in grams, and your theoretical yield you calculate it in moles. You can't use those. You have to convert one of those. Maybe you convert your theoretical yield to grams instead of moles. But the units need to match up for this to work out, because otherwise units don't cancel out. Theoretical yield, percent yield has no units to it, so it's just a straight up percentage. So just something to be aware of. So that's the idea behind theoretical yields, actual yields, and percent yield. In the next video, we'll look at an example of actually doing this type of calculation.